All right, let's get right into it. We're about to unpack one of the most intense, most emotionally charged family reunions in all of history. Seriously, this is a story that's got everything. Unbelievable betrayal, huge power dynamics, and a reveal, a reveal that just changes the game completely.
Okay, so I want you to picture this. You're in a massive, gorgeous Egyptian palace, and there's this governor, right? The second most powerful guy in the entire empire. Only Pharaoh is above him, and he's just staring down this small group of shepherds. They're terrified. And here's the kicker. They're his brothers, but they don't have a clue. To them, he's just some powerful Egyptian official. All they know is they're desperate for food. There's this awful famine going on. What they don't know is that they've been walking right into a trap set by the very brother they betrayed. The tension in that room, you could cut it with a knife.
And then it happens. The breaking point. After weeks of putting these guys through the ringer, testing them, hiding who he really is behind the stone-cold mask, Joseph just can't take it anymore. He's totally overcome. The act is over. He literally shouts everybody out. All the officials, the guards, everyone. He has to be alone with his brothers for what's about to go down.
And this brings us to what we're calling the unbearable moment. I mean, think about it. 20 years. 20 years of pain, of grief, of wondering. And it's all about to just explode.
And when I say explode, I mean it. The emotion that comes out of him is just staggering. This isn't just a single tear rolling down his cheek. No. This is a loud, gut-wrenching sob. So loud, in fact, that all those Egyptians he just kicked out, they can hear everything. The sound literally echoes down the palace halls, all the way to Pharaoh's throne room. This guy, who's been nothing but a stern, powerful ruler, has just had a complete and very, very public meltdown.
So this raw, totally uncontrollable emotional breakdown, it sets the stage for the biggest moment in this entire saga, the great reveal. But you've got to be asking yourself, why now, right? After all this time, all these years, what was the final straw? Well, the answer is about to completely shatter his brother's reality.
So he turns to them. They're just standing there, totally stunned. And through the tears, he says it. The two words that change everything. I am Joseph. Can you even begin to imagine the shock? I mean, the kid brother they sold off, the one they told their father was dead, he's not just alive, he's standing right in front of them as the second in command of all of Egypt. Wow. And get this, his very first question tells you everything you need to know about where his head and his heart have been for all these years. He doesn't say, "Why did you do this to me?" He doesn't accuse them. His first words are this incredibly vulnerable question. Is my father still alive? After more than 2 decades, his first thought is about his dad. And the brothers, how do they react? With pure, absolute terror. They are paralyzed, can't speak, can't move. The original text uses a word that means, deeply disturbed, just terrified. In 1 second, the guilt from a crime they probably tried to bury for 20 years just comes rushing back and hits them like a ton of bricks. They're not just looking at a powerful Egyptian governor anymore, they're staring their own crime right in the face.
Joseph sees how scared they are, so he actually tells them to come closer. He wants to bridge that gap. And he says it again, just to make sure it sinks in, but this time he adds the gut punch. Your brother, the one you sold into Egypt. Boom. He just puts it all out on the table, the horrible truth. There's no running from it now.
Okay, so at this point, they must be thinking, this is it, we're done for. They're bracing for revenge, right? But then, the story takes a turn you just never expect. Joseph completely switches gears from this massive emotional moment to, believe it or not, a practical plan for survival. And this part is absolutely key. It's just a masterclass in grace. Instead of yelling at them, he offers them comfort. He actually tells them, hey, don't beat yourselves up about this. He completely reframes what they did. He says it wasn't about them trying to ruin him, it was all part of a bigger divine plan. He's basically saying, you guys meant it for evil, but God used it for good, to save all of us. This goes way beyond simple forgiveness. He's changing the meaning of the entire traumatic event.
And he needs them to understand, this is urgent, like right now. He tells them there are still 5 more years of this terrible famine left. 5 years where nothing's going to grow. If he doesn't do something, their entire family and so many others are not going to make it. So he gives them a simple 3-step plan, super clear. 1. Go back home, tell Dad the crazy news. 2.
pack everyone up, the whole family, and get back to Egypt, and don't waste any time. And 3, you're all going to settle in the land of Goshen. It's the best land in Egypt, and there he can take care of you, make sure you survive this thing.
Now, you can imagine, a scene like that in a royal palace doesn't exactly stay a secret. Word gets around fast, and pretty soon it reaches Pharaoh himself. And honestly, Pharaoh's reaction tells you everything about how much he values Joseph.
Pharaoh hears the news, and he's not mad or concerned. He's actually happy about it. He thinks it's great news for his #1 guy, the man who basically saved Egypt from this famine. So he decides to get involved himself. This family reunion just became official state business. And his offer is just incredible. He doesn't just rubber stamp Joseph's plan, he makes it even better. He says they can have the absolute best land in all of Egypt. He provides royal wagons to carry the women and children. He gives them all the supplies they'll need for the trip. And then he says this, which is amazing: don't even worry about your possessions. Basically, leave your old junk behind, because everything in Egypt is yours for the taking. Then Joseph adds his own personal touch. He gives each of his brothers, the same ones who sold him, a brand new set of clothes. It's a sign of honor. But for Benjamin, his younger brother, the only one who wasn't in on it, he gets special treatment. 300 silver coins, which was a ton of money, plus 5 sets of new clothes. Now you got to understand, giving a gift that's so much bigger is a huge public statement. It's Joseph saying, "This is my beloved brother," and kind of putting the family hierarchy back in order. So, loaded up with gifts from Pharaoh and Joseph, the brothers start their journey home. And now they have what's probably the hardest job of their lives. They have to go convince their old, grieving father that the son he's been mourning for 22 years isn't just alive, he's practically the king of Egypt.
So they get back, and they just come right out with it. No beating around the bush. They deliver this news that is so insane, so unbelievable, it must have sounded like they were crazy. "Dad, Joseph is alive, and he's the ruler of all Egypt."
And Jacob's reaction, it's really something. The text says his heart went numb. It's like his brain just couldn't process the information. It makes sense, right? This is a man who has spent over 2 decades grieving for his favorite son. His whole world was built on that loss. To hear this news is such a shock, his mind just shuts down. And let's be real, why should he believe them? These are the exact same guys who brought him a bloody coat all those years ago as proof Joseph was dead.
But then, something changes. Something cuts through all that grief and shock. And this is where Jacob goes from being totally numb to feeling this incredible surge of hope. It's our final part of the story. The spirit revived. See, their words, they just weren't enough to convince him. But then, Jacob looks out, and he sees the wagons, a whole convoy of official royal Egyptian wagons, sent by Pharaoh. That was it. That was the proof he needed. Physical, undeniable proof. No way his sons could have faked that. In that single moment, the impossible story suddenly became very, very real. And just like that, the numbness is gone. And in its place is this powerful new purpose. His spirit comes roaring back to life, and he says, "I believe it." He knows what he has to do. He's got one last mission on this earth. I will go and see my son Joseph before I die. And so that's the big turning point in this incredible saga. Joseph's ability to forgive, this really radical forgiveness. It all comes down to his belief that this horrible thing his brothers did, this act of pure betrayal, was somehow used by a higher power to save everyone. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Not just if something terrible can lead to something good, but maybe how can we find meaning and maybe even find a way to forgive when we face the worst moments in our own lives?